It is my honor to call to order our July 2nd regular meeting of the Mountlake Terrace City Council. We'll begin with a flag salute and then go into roll call. If we may have roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Doyle.
Present.
Councilmember Page.
Present.
Mayor Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Son Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Murray asked to be excused.
Do we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Murray?
Move to excuse Councilmember Murray.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, take it to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Unopposed? Perfect. Rest up. We will now move to any late changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Two late changes tonight. First of which, I would like to add an item number 4, item number 5, for recognition of a resident that's about to turn 100. So that's going to be great. And move the rest of the items down, starting with the recognition of Tyler to item number 6 and so on. The second late change is for item number 11 on your agenda. So we got an email from the Department of Commerce today that they had a slight quibble with a few of the number of days in one of our ordinance. We'll change that to match up with Department of Commerce's guidance, and when Brooke, our Community Development Director, talks about that item, we'll still go through all of the pieces and parts of it, and we'll just change that little section and then put it on your consent agenda for your July 16th meeting, if everybody's comfortable with that.
Everyone okay with that? Sounds like a plan. Thank you, sir. All right. Let us move right into general public comment. Any public comment in person or online?
Yeah, we do have some, and I would like to read the protocols. Public comments are accepted at designated times during council meetings and work sessions and become part of the official record. Address the council as a whole and focus on the issues rather than individuals. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Comment exceeding the time limit or violating these guidelines may be terminated. Council does not respond during public comments at this time. Written comments will be included in the official record but will not be read aloud. All right, so we have the first speaker, Taylor Wolf. All right, so you have 5 minutes. Could you please move to the podium? Yeah.
There we go. And I am not a public speaker, and I'm running on 4 hours of sleep with an 8-month-old at home. So I wrote some things down, so forgive me for reading it. But my goal here is to have you reconsider how the threshold for complying with the 2021 International Residential Code for additions to existing homes. The current threshold creates inequity, even if unintended. My home is only 924 square feet, and it was built in the 1950s with an assessed structure value of only $125,000. Adding a primary bedroom costs approximately $135,000, which automatically exceeds 50% threshold and triggers extensive code requirements. If I owned a larger, more valuable home, the exact same addition might not cross that threshold. In effect, homeowners with a smaller, lower value home are far more likely to be subject to these additional requirements than owners with larger homes or more expensive homes. I'd also encourage you to consider an alternate approach to this jurisdiction, or that other jurisdictions that have adopted, one that's based on the extent of work that's being done on your house versus the assessed structure value. Other jurisdictions have said if you break into 50% of your structure, then you need a retrofit and get things up to code for seismic events, earthquakes. I mean, all these homes, they were built in the 50s. They've been through seismic events. So our addition is only requiring an opening of a single exterior wall to connect to the new bedroom of the existing house. Yet the current rule can require costly upgrades to the entire original structure, even though the project barely alters it. A threshold based on how much of the existing building is actually modified would better align the code requirement with work being performed. Finally, I'd ask you to consider the practical outcome. If these added requirements make projects financially impossible for people to build, then the alternate is they're just not going to build, and then their homes are still going to be out of code and still just as unsafe. So it leaves older homes exactly as they are today. A more proportional approach would encourage homeowners to make improvements while still advancing the city's safety goals. I respectfully ask you to consider revising this policy to make it more equitable. And in the meantime, I would hope for a variance so that we can get started on our project soon. We've been working with the department, the permitting department, and this threshold, which kicks off a lot of things you have to change to your home, are the last things that we need in order to move forward. We have a contractor, we have the plans, we have the financing, we are ready to go, and it's just this one last thing. So thank you for your time and your consideration on it.
All right, the second speaker, we have Brian Hildebrand. Hopefully I say your last name correctly. And you have 5 minutes.
First of all, I'll beg some forbearance on my choice of topic today. Each layer of government is an entity unto itself, and the higher levels merely provide a framework for lower levels to embody. I'm extremely pleased with the governance of Mountlake Terrace, especially compared to my previous city of Mercer Island, and would normally not bring up issues existing at higher levels which the city has no jurisdiction over. However, I think that recent changes at the federal level, as well as the significant anniversary our nation is on the cusp of celebrating, merit my short speech today. Several hundred years ago, the founders of our nation were united under a red, white, and blue flag flown for centuries, representing a common way of life and legal system, representing further a shared cultural origin and loyalty. A flag which demanded respect for an authority deriving directly from God. I speak, of course, of the flag of British Empire, a flag our nation's ancestors ultimately decided to discard in pursuit of something better. This was not a decision made in haste. The Founding Fathers understood very well the benefits of stability and a functional political environment. And yet, in a nation under the flag that had brought them there, they saw the benefits from work go to people with nominal rights to it rather than those performing it, saw core members of their community alienated by outdated attitudes, and saw corruption in the justice and morality that their flag was supposed to stand for. Over several decades, they began to build political coalitions, advocate for change, in the way that the empire managed them, and when it became clear change would not come from on high, shrug off the old standard and raise a new one in its place. Even then, their task was not done, and it was only after decades more political work that anything recognizable as our current union began to emerge. In building this nation, we dug deep for examples of effective governance and redefined what it meant to be a citizen of a country. It has been the duty and privilege of the men and women of this nation to continue to develop it and keep the spirit of its founding alive over decades of decades, a fact that it would be immoderate to minimize or discard. However, on this 250th anniversary of the nation's founding, it's still worth looking at our flag not only with pride, but with an eye critical to how its use may have grown close to the striped standard that preceded it. I'm sure the founders of our nation would ask nothing less of us. As we highlight in the last line of our national anthem, it's the struggle for freedom, not any concrete acquisition, that defines us. So, happy semi-quincentennial. This Independence Day, let's celebrate not only what we've done, but all the work we're still able to do for this nation to keep it moving forward. And while we're at it, take a moment to appreciate our state and local government too for doing much of the day-to-day work of governing. Thank you very much.
And I need to make some adjustments on the computer so that I can see the attendant online. Sorry, I forgot about this one.
So I think we've got everything figured out, and hopefully the guests that have joined us online are able to hear now. And it looks like people online are able to hear, so I think we've got it all figured out.
Sorry for interruptions. For online audience, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. All right, so that concludes public comment.
Perfect, although we're going to modify that a little bit since we have such a wonderful looking audience here. Thank you for joining us, and see if there's anyone else that wanted to have a moment at the microphone. We can do that in person. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead now and move forward to the consent agenda. I see Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take it to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Consent agenda has passed. Up next, we have back-to-back recognitions, and I will take it from there. And once I finish, we will move into the Proclamation for Disability Pride Month. So, just a second. All right. So this first one is actually, as you already heard, we have the great honor of being such a lovely and wonderful community that we actually have some centurions in our commits. And we have one who's going to cross that threshold on July 4th specifically, but they're having a party for her very soon here tomorrow. So I'm going to stay high level because she may be watching and I don't want to let something out of the bag. But that said, we as a city and as a city council wanted to make sure that we acknowledged Elsie Symonds. So I am just going to read what it says here, and then I will make sure that I will personally make sure that she gets this certificate. Certificate of Lifetime Achievement, presented to Elsie Symonds. In recognition of achieving the remarkable milestone of your 100th birthday on July 4th, 2026, your long life has witnessed a century of progress, and your presence in our community remains a cherished part of our shared history. May this special occasion be filled with joy, love, cherished memories, and the company of those who celebrate you. And again, the City Council is honored to soon meet you. Now, we shall now move to a second recognition, and this one comes with a quick backstory. I have not been in council, and that was because I had the honor of being invited to sit on stage with the graduating class of Edmonds College. I did that as our mayor, but it was a special honor for me because I used to be the dean of access and completion there, which is to argue that although I left there about 4 years ago, this graduating class would have been at least had my handprint on them in the sense of the policies and decisions that we were making about how you go through that institution. Well, that wasn't enough. The universe is very kind. Instead, it said, I want to make sure that you meet one of your awesome young folks in your community that's doing amazing work, which is to say the keynote speaker for Edmonds College was my good friend here, Tyler Ekse, which if you would join me up here at the stage, I'd love to talk about you and embarrass you in front of everyone. So the good news here, especially with our colleagues here from my Neighborhood Network News, they've already done a wonderful article on Tyler, so I'm not going to have you run through that. But just know that really that when I learned about this young man and first saw him, we were in an empty auditorium, Angel of the Winds, and he was at the podium, genuinely commanding this podium with a completely empty audience. And I knew this was somebody special. And then I learned he was a Mountlake Terrace resident. I implied that I had read the article beforehand, but I just saw his picture and said, I think you're the guy, right? So I didn't know that at the time, but what a blessing it was to have Mountlake Terrace represented so well. We had a number of Mountlake Terrace residents graduate with degrees, with certificates, you name it, so we were very well represented there, but to also have our keynote here. That said, the reason that we're having him today is, one, I pushed to make sure we did that, but just to kind of recognize the man is in uniform. He's taking time out of his day because in 2 days he heads to Texas to join an elite incoming class of future pilots of pointy planes, is what I will say. So, again, the article is amazing, and just know that very few people get selected for this opportunity to protect our nation and push our agendas and preserve our rights and liberties. And we will have someone right out of Mountlake Terrace who's right there with them doing that. I'm sure we've had folks in the past, but we haven't had the honor of recognizing them in the live time, and so we wanted to make sure we did that. Again, I would embarrass you more because his story is amazing. It really is a turnaround story and a true educator. Recognizing that timing is everything and then moving forward makes the difference. So in that regard, I encourage you to read his story because the theme of it is, it's not about where you've started, it's where you're headed, if you will. And I'm probably not doing the best example of that, but nonetheless, it's just such a powerful story. So what we wrote here is a certificate of appreciation presented to Tyler Ekse. Is it Ekse?
Ekse.
Ekse. I did say it right. Ekse. In recognition of your commitment and passion for civic service and inspiring others to achieve their goal, this is offered to you by the Mountlake Terrace City Council. And again, we also want to make sure that we got on the Tyler Ekse. Ekse?
Ekse.
Ekse. Man, I can't say tonight.
People love to add syllables.
Yes, and I'm a Woodward because of it, and I'm a Woodard, right? So I understand. Apologies. But we're also getting on board because I have no doubt you're going to see this man eventually, probably, if not in D.C., at minimum in Olympia. So we want to be on the right side of you, on the front side, brother. So, that said, if the council is willing, I'd love to have you all come down and do a quick photo. And if you want to say any words, please, if you want to say any words.
Well, good evening. I won't take much of your time, but thank you to the council members and to Mayor Woodard for having me. I want to say first and foremost that this community has inspired me to serve, and I hold that very dearly. As I prepare to join a new community, I just want to say I am relieved and rest assured that you all, after having had the chance to meet with you and speak with many of you, the city's in good hands. So thank you all for being a part of this community that I love and hold so dear.
Outstanding. And just as a recognition, our city, of course, was founded for our veterans returning, right? And so in that regard, it's another example of you adding to that legacy. I'm sure they're smiling as well. That said, we are going to keep moving, and now we will move to the Proclamation for Disability Pride Month, which I believe is Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
This is almost like being in the theater, all these things that happen backstage. Okay, so Disability Pride Month. So we're going to be, okay. Edmond School District Special Education PT SA was chartered in December of 2024 in response to families' desire for connection, support, and community. They bring together families, educators, and advocates to provide resources, promote inclusion, and ensure students with disabilities have the support and opportunities that they need to thrive both in schools and beyond. The PTSA advocates, educates, collaborates, and conducts outreach to foster belongings and equitable opportunities for all students and families. And Commissioner Priya May Folden will interpret the reading of the proclamation in American Sign Language. Is she here? Okay. So, the proclamation reads, Disability Pride Month. Whereas, yes.
There's a lot of us here.
Okay, then I will have all of you stand behind me then. It has only 2 names here, so I didn't.
Myself and Sylvia, and then the rest of our officers and one of our chairs.
Okay, great. I thought I was doing this alone, and I thought there's got to be people up here. All right. Disability Pride Month. Whereas July is Disability Pride Month, and this year's theme is The World Works Better with Us. When people with disabilities are included, respected, and supported, communities work better for everyone. That includes schools, workplaces, healthcare, transportation, and public life. And whereas you can experience this in everyday life, disability-led advocacy and design have helped create changes many people now rely on, like curb cuts, closed captioning, audiobooks, and voice dictation. And whereas Disability Pride Month is an annual observance in July that celebrates disability identity and community, recognizes disability culture and leadership, and marks the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, anniversary and the ongoing work to make civil rights real in daily life, and whereas many people with disabilities still face barriers to be fully included and valued. Ableism is often ignored, but its effects are real. It limits access to education, jobs, healthcare, and respect. And whereas disability pride is about being accepted on our own terms, disability isn't something to hide or fix. It is a part of who we are. Everyone deserves inclusion, rights, and respect without having to earn them. And whereas Disability Pride Month also reinforces a basic principle: people with disabilities belong in the decisions that shape school, work, healthcare, and community life. Now, therefore, Mayor Steve Woodard, on behalf of the Mountlake Terrace City Council, do hereby proclaim July as Disability Pride Month. And having only been in a wheelchair for 1 month when I was pregnant, showed me what my friends in wheelchairs have to go through to even reach things. I couldn't even use the ATM machine. And that's only a small portion of what everybody else gets on a daily basis. Who wants to talk? Me. You want to talk? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Do you want to stand with me? You can stand up here with me if you want. Can I read a copy? There's 2 copies.
I can read it.
You could have her come around so we could see her.
Do you want to go on?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what we did last time. If we share, as long as someone holds her. Yeah.
This is amazing.
That way we can see you.
For it.
Are you going to read it? You got to read from the paper, okay?
There we go. There we go. As long as someone holds her.
Read from here.
This takes too long to read.
Maybe you can just read the first part.
On behalf of the Emmons School District Special Education PTSA, we sincerely thank Mountlake Terrace City Council and Mayor Woodward for recognizing Disability Pride Month in our organization.
Good.
Outstanding. You just did something most adults won't do.
And if you can't tell, that's Cody's daughter. Cody is our current treasurer. So thank you for helping us today. Just to finish our remarks, the Edmonds School District Special Education PTSA represents students and families from every building in our district, including Mountlake Terrace Elementary, Terrace Park Elementary School, and Mountlake Terrace High School. We're proud to partner with community organizations and our members to advocate for children with disabilities in our district and strive to promote equity, inclusion, and community through our group. Since our charter 18 months ago, we've met with district staff, local legislators, congressional offices, including the U.S. Congress's Bipartisan Disabilities Caucus. We've also partnered with local organizations like the ARC of Snohomish County and Edmonds College's Pursuit Lab programs to provide valuable resources and education to our members and school district community. At the end of our first year, the Washington State PTA awarded our PTSA the Advocacy Award in recognition of our work. Your proclamation affirms the value, dignity, and contributions of people with disabilities throughout our community, something our PTSA strives for. Recognizing Disability Pride Month is an important step in raising awareness, celebrating the diversity and culture of the disability community, and acknowledging disability as a natural and valuable part of human diversity. It also reinforces the importance of advocating for meaningful change by promoting accessibility, equity, and true inclusion in our schools, workplaces, and public spaces. Families share with us that they feel alone or without a sense of community when they join our PTSA. We are proud to foster connection and provide support that so many of our students and families have difficulty finding. This recognition by the City of Mountlake Terrace helps to cultivate a community where individuals with disabilities are seen, respected, and empowered to fully participate in every aspect of civic life and their experience in school. We are grateful for your leadership and partnership in creating a more inclusive future for everyone. Thank you for standing with the disability community and helping amplify the message that every person belongs and every voice matters. Thank you. Do you want to be in our picture? She's like, I don't want to be in the photo. Do you want me to go over there? Okay.
This way. This way.
All right, next up we have the Proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, and that will be read by Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
All right. Forrest, do you want to join me and anybody else on Parks and Rec? Come on up. Or Recreation and Parks, I guess I should. Okay. Welcome. Thank you. We're going to recognize all of you next, but first we wanted to do the proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout the country, including the city of Mountlake Terrace, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, and whereas Parks and Natural Recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the United States House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Mountlake Terrace recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now, therefore, Mayor Steve Woodard, on behalf of the Mountlake Terrace City Council, does hereby proclaim July as Parks and Recreation Month. want to, do we want to do pictures? I mean, you know, don't want to leave you guys out.
All right, we're going to keep this moving forward and move into our recognition of board members and commissioners. So tonight, we honor all of our community members who have served on board and commissions. These roles are appointed by our city council, and the boards and commissions are advisory to this council. Each of us on this council deeply appreciates the time, passion, perspectives, and knowledge that each of you have shared during your terms. Many of you volunteer in multiple ways throughout the city, and again, we thank you for your care for the city and our residents. Each of our council liaisons, or a proxy, to the boards and commissions will present certificates of appreciation to our departing members, and I'm just going to go ahead and start on stage right here with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, going to be read by Council Member Doyle, although the liaison is Councilmember Murray, who sends her regards and is watching, I am sure, as we speak. See you. Hope you feel better.
Yep. Thank you, Teresa Courtney. Would you like to join me? So I'm so excited to get to do this. I'm sure that Councilmember Murray is sad not to be here, but I'm really excited to get to do this. So about Teresa. Teresa has been an outstanding volunteer, tabling at nearly every event the DEI Commission or city hosted and participating in public meetings. She has a welcoming spirit and was able to share information on a wide variety of topics that the city was working on with community members. Teresa was happy to take the lead roles in communications and speaking too. We appreciate your dedication and hard work over the last 3 years, Teresa. Thank you. Congratulations. And when I was reading this, that's what I thought of. You know, when I have gone to DEI Commission events, it's Teresa's. It's your smiling face that is so welcoming and is just the perfect person to be one of the ambassadors for our city.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The other two people aren't here, but I'm going to read theirs as well. Scott Matsuda. Thank you, Scott, for your thoughtfulness, compassion, and willingness to meet people across the community and region to create relationships and help people connect with the city. From the start, you helped build a strong culture within the commission that created momentum and a collaborative work group. We always appreciate your positive energy at events and your extra contributions, including your professional photography. We wish you good health and hope to see you enjoying the community. Thank you, Scott. And last but not least, Kermit Apio. Kermit is deeply invested in our community, and we were honored that he served on the DEI Commission. Kermit suggested the creation of an Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander heritage event, then led the planning, connected the city with performers, became the audio technician and MC, came up with craft ideas, and even performed himself in the events. We plan to continue this event, and we hope to see you there on May 1st, 2027. Best of luck with your work this year. Congratulations. Here's a certificate for you. Should we get a picture?
And actually, we'll wait till the end and then have all the folks together do one photo. Otherwise, we'll be back now. So we are going to, in no particular order, then moving down the dais, now move to the Arts Commission, which will be read from the dais since our departing member is not here. And that will be read by Councilmember Page.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm the liaison for the Arts Advisory Commission. And I'd like to speak about Bonnie Mercer, and hopefully she's watching online. Bonnie Mercer has served on the Arts Advisory Commission since 2006. Over the years, she has told many people that she herself is not an artist, but she is a worker bee. Bonnie not only helps to make sure the annual Arts of the Terrace runs smoothly, but she also has volunteered at many other events, always with great attitude, always with a smile. Her can-do attitude and willingness to roll up her sleeves and get the job done has been greatly appreciated. The City Council appreciates your passion for the arts and the many hours of volunteerism you dedicated to the city over the 20 years you served on this commission. And the certificate of appreciation, will be presented to Bonnie Mercer in recognition of your 20 years of service on the Arts Advisory Commission. The City of Mountlake Terrace extends its gratitude for your time and commitment and contributions in support of our community, signed by Mayor Steve Woodard.
Thank you. We'll now move to recognition of our Recreation and Parks Commission, and that is with Councilmember, Sonmore. Sorry, it's getting late. Sonmore.
All good. I want to recognize Lori Berger. She has stepped up to the plate, and she served out a term. I believe she was able to attend 2 or 3 meetings when she was appointed to that commission. And I really enjoyed listening to her. She went to the parks with her twins, and when we had to vote on what was going to be put at yeah, Keith is shaking his head. At our firefighters park, we were trying to decide what equipment would go there. And so her twins voted, but one chose one design and one chose the other. And it was adorable, her talking about that. And I'll always remember that. And we also had a wonderful debate about looking at charging for park rentals for like birthday parties or special events. And I was really probably not so on board with charging for parks. And then she explained to me how children nowadays have parties all the time, and it gets very expensive to have those parties. And if you can have them at a park and reserve a certain time, it serves the families a lot better. So it was wonderful hearing her debate over different items, and she's going to be missed on our Park and Rec. So thank you, Lori.
Wonderful, thank you. And we will round this out. With the Planning Commission, we actually do not have a liaison, although if you had tuned into the meeting before, it came up as a recognition that we could and maybe will have a liaison. So for now, a former Planning Commissioner and now Council Member, of course, Matsumoto Wright, will read the outgoing person for that one, Planning Commission. Yeah, actually, are they here? Yeah, they're here. I would say you can, yes, since he's here, I would say up at the podium, please. Yeah. I don't want to go up there. You can wait to the very last second if you like.
No.
I don't know if he's made it today. All right, then. Yes, we want you up here. I don't want to be gone. Right, we have, on the Planning Commission, we have 2 departing planning commissioners who each served 4 years. We have Clark Morgan and Deneen Thompson. During their service, they participated in the development and engagement, development of the comprehensive plan periodic update, which requires a tremendous amount of work and engagement, including adoption of a new comprehensive plan map. They were also instrumental in adoption of the city's Housing Action Plan, which provides an implementation roadmap to achieve important housing goals. Other projects that they provided guidance to, the City Council included the 2024 major update to the Engineering Development Manual, Economic Development Strategic Plan, the Sound Transit Linwood Link Extension, Urban Forestry Management Plan, code updates for middle housing, critical areas, residential districts, and infrastructure requirements for new development, and the comprehensive plan amendment process and development agreements. So you know this took a lot of work. It did. And thank you so much. It may not have done everything, but we'll work on that. So here is your certificate.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all the work you put in.
Thank you. I'm not done yet.
You want to talk?
There we go. I was going to say thank you.
All right.
Perfect, and now if we can have the council and all of our outgoing volunteers to join us for a photo. All right, we will now move to a review of the ordinance adopting code amendments to chapters 19.95 and 15.05 for public infrastructure improvements. Floor is yours, sir. And for the record, are you doing all three? Okay, I was going to say, because we can just have you roll into them if that's how you want to do that, but if you're not, then
No,
we'll...
I believe I just have the...
Perfect, okay, so we're at technically number 10, review ordinance adopting code amendments to chapters 19.95 and 15.05 for public infrastructure improvements. And the floor is yours when you're ready. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, just trying to figure out where the share... Where is it? Cannot find anything on this. There we go. Where is it? Yeah. Should show up. Okay, my name is Lucas Crott, civil engineer here at the city. Here to talk on some public infrastructure requirements and specifically the triggers for when sidewalks and other public infrastructures are triggered to be constructed as part of development. One of the purposes of today is to fulfill based on the middle housing ordinance that was adopted. It specifically exempts single family, or the middle housing cannot be more restrictive than single family housing. And so based on our current code where all development triggers frontage improvements and then certain exemptions are carved out depending on what the size of the development is, we are looking to change this there. And then as part of this, addition of frontage improvements on certain developments, we're looking to help offset the cost of these improvements by removing some of the underground power requirements, except for in the town center area. This fulfills the council goals of growing a vibrant community, as well as responsible governance to ensure desired level of service. So when I was talking about the frontage improvement exemptions, currently in our code, everything triggers frontage improvements except for, and then certain exemptions are carved out, some of which are New construction or addition under 50% of the assessed value, and then within the town center zone, interior remodels under 50% do not trigger. Outside of town center, interior remodels of any value are exempt. And the big one was new construction, modification, or addition to an existing single-family house, as well as ADUs do not trigger as well. We're looking to change these exemptions to instead of the 50% value, it's now addition of up to 800 square feet would not trigger frontage improvements, as well as interior remodels that are under 50% of the assessed value, and construction of up to 2 accessory dwelling units.
So we have a question here, if you're open to it. It might be the same one I have, but Councilmember Sonmore.
You can hear me okay? Yeah. We had a speaker tonight that talked about adding on a bedroom, and he had an addition for the 200 or the 924, but you were just talking about 800. Can you just explain what you were talking about, the 800 feet improvement at 50%? I'm just seeing if there's any correlation to what he was talking about.
Yes. So we picked the 50% of the assessed value based on the IRC in coordination with our building official. And that would be a separate evaluation based, I guess it's, if you were doing them in addition to a structure as well as an interior remodel, they would be treated separately for the cost or for the exemption threshold. So your addition would not count towards that 50% assessed value. It'd only be the interior work would be what would be looked at for that threshold there.
There is also another difference. This is for frontage improvements. The speaker earlier tonight was talking about energy code and building code requirements. Sort of related, but two separate issues.
Yeah, this would be for curb gutter, sidewalk, to have the walkable city that we're looking for. As part of this, for these additional costs for these improvements, we're looking to change the overhead utility undergrounding. Currently, the city's plan is to underground all utilities in the city. And some of these are very expensive, and we found not to be fully equitable along every property. We have some distribution lines that run over a good area of the city, and whenever the estimates we've been finding from Snohomish County PUD for these often involve a large tray or switch vault, which costs around $162,000 based on our Main Street design. And a house right next to it would not have that cost added to their power undergrounding. And so it's a little expensive there. So the proposal would be to maintain undergrounding in this map here. We're largely involving the town center area, but still allowing existing overhead lines to remain overhead outside of this area. Planning Commission recommended approval on their June 22nd public hearing, and these can be added to the City Council action, I guess, in 2 weeks on the 16th.
Perfect. We're open for questions and comments and feedback, and we have Councilmember Page. Man, I'm really losing it. Downgraded you. Sorry.
That's okay. I have a question for understanding on the packet on page 3. Section D, modifications to electrical service for existing single-family dwellings, item 2, where there are modifications to electrical services for an existing single-family dwelling accessory structure in town center zones, the property shall be required to provide for undergrounding of power and other wire line services, except in the case of a life safety situation. And I'm reading that to mean that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, so if someone was doing work in their house or an addition and I have to do some modification to electrical services, then the owner, property owner is responsible for now creating an underground system versus what might have already been there. Is that correct?
I cannot speak to that part as that's maintaining, I'm not proposing to change anything related to building code and the undergrounding requirements for that. The specific code sections I was looking at is only doing the power undergrounding on the frontage near public right-of-way. Everything related to building, I believe, I'm not touching.
Yeah, so that's the way it exists today. That's not being changed.
Okay.
Others with questions, comments, or feedback? Okay, seeing none, we'll end with mine. Firstly, I always love when we get opportunities to remind our residents that we are residents too, and I am inside of the undergrounding if I'll take a risk here. So I'm deeply interested in this question. So I have a lot of neighbors who have been doing work, but we also have a lot of telephone poles. So this is part of the 100-year plan, and they ask me questions. How do I explain to them that, well, they're going to be telephone poles, but for your project, I need you to put everything underground till it gets to the telephone pole, at which point they'll magically make it come back up. But nonetheless, just so I can make sure my neighbors will understand why this is happening, and they understand I'm right there with them. But I can't explain this to them yet, because again, we see telephone poles, but there are people trying to do great work, and some have already done it under the wire here, but just trying to make sure I can give them the right message, because I will get it a lot.
I guess, sorry, what's the?
Well, just trying to, so how do I explain this to them, I guess, and really the undergrounding aspect of it, because you're saying this is only about the frontage, but it's about if they're doing work inside their home, you know what I mean? So I just want to make sure people understand why they're getting charged because they live south of 230th and not north of 230th.
Most of the area in here is part of the town center zoning, which already was required to be undergrounded. Well, I guess the entire city currently is required to be undergrounded. I was looking to maintain that in the town center for a walkable city. As for, I guess, why to only underground in this area, or?
So maybe I back it up. So basically what I'm hearing us say is nothing has changed, where actually what changes is who's responsible. So we're inside of this, I'm looking at the map here.
Yes.
We already have to underground, so nothing's changing for us. We're just now redefining it because we're now saying those outside of the boundary do not have to underground.
Correct.
Correct, thank you. Okay, so I don't have any new arguments is what I hear coming towards me, because this is already what we're doing.
Yeah, that was part of the reason is due to Snohomish County PUD, we've been finding, or in talks with them, it's actually harder to restore power after an outage based on storms or other impacts, where it's overhead for a while and then drops down to a pole going to underground. It's harder to find the break in the line or to restore that when it's going underground for a section.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Well, any other questions, comments, feedback? Oh, Councilmember Sonmore.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that dates back to 2007 and 2010. We had an ordinance 2823 about undergrounding, and it was exactly to if there was an earthquake or if there were storms, but primarily having it in the downtown. What the plan was, all that would be built out, and it would all be businesses in that area. That was the future plan of it, and you can see how long it's been taking to get there, but that plan's been in place. But it's a good question for people to understand, but it's a lot of it is if they do a lot of redesign or tear down the house, that new developer who's putting up a business or a big apartment would have to underground all those utilities. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I'm just trying to remember off some of the memory and some of the data that I had been reading before the meeting.
You don't got to respond to that. Thank you. Thank you for that history, though. It's all good. You weren't here, so I can understand that. But thank you for that history. And again, really, I think the takeaway here for anyone who is inside of this box, nothing has changed since what we adopted is 2021, I believe, the town center map. So it's the same. We're just now 24.
No, before.
Or before. Nonetheless, moving forward. Okay, any other questions, comments, feedback? All right, seeing none, oh,
Just to clarify, so we will put this on the consent agenda, on the July 16th consent agenda for approval.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
perfect, and thank you for that wrap. All right, you are free to move about the country, as they say. We are going to now move to number 11, technically, which is review and vote on the ordinance adopting code amendments to Chapter 19.3 and Chapters 19.32 of residential districts. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you.
And I believe you will do the next one as well, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we will just presume we'll roll right into that one at your discretion.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Okay. Okay. So good evening, Council. I'm Brooke Idem. I'm the Community Development Director. So as discussed at the City Council work session on June 11th, the Planning Commission is recommending amendments to the residential district regulations that are intended to improve clarity and clean up ambiguity. The residential development regulations were adopted in 2025 to meet middle housing requirements passed by the Washington State Legislature. That ordinance created the R district chapters, which are 1930 and 1932. Now that those regulations have been in use for a bit, areas of confusion have been identified that need to be resolved. The proposed amendments address these issues by improving clarity, codifying recent code interpretations, making organizational improvements for reader friendliness, and increasing consistency with state requirements. No new regulations are proposed. This project is proposed for the sole purpose of making the current regulations easier to understand and administer. The Planning Commission held 2 work sessions on this and a public hearing on May 27th. They voted unanimously to recommend approval of the amendments presented in the draft ordinance on page 59 of your agenda packets. City Council was briefed on this item on June 11th and reviewed the draft ordinance at that time. No changes have been made to the proposal since that date. The proposed changes are primarily located in Chapter 1930 MTMC, that's the R District chapter. We are adding consistency between the zone titles in the purpose section and the subsequent tables of the chapter. We're putting superscripts in numerical order in the use tables, consolidating the multiplex housing form types in the use table so they can be viewed at the same time. We're inserting a note about the applicability of design standards for apartment buildings, codifying a recent code interpretation about how the standards apply to lots that exceed the minimum lot size, and adding an exemption for vehicle parking areas from the floor area ratio calculation, removing ambiguity for the accessory dwelling unit section to ensure consistency with state regulations, and improving grammar and readability throughout the chapter. Chapter 1932 is the residential design standards. There is a very minor change proposed here to the description of stacks to make it more clearly apply to apartments. And as I mentioned last month, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the regulations and voted to adopt findings of fact and conclusions that support their recommendations. And with that, the ordinance for this item begins on page 59 of your agenda packets, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Do we have any questions, comments, feedback before we take action? Seeing none, do we have a motion on the table? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve the code amendments to chapters 19.30 and 19.32 for residential districts.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? We have a second from Councilmember Matsumoto Wright. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? We have a 6-0 passage. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to roll into the next.
Okay. Okay. So for administrative procedures, this item has been modified under the late changes to the agenda this evening. You have 2 ordinances in the packet for this item. One is on page 186, and that is the one that we're proposing to move forward with tonight. The other one will be on a future agenda for council action. As background, Senate Bill 5290 passed the Washington State Legislature in 2023. It made some significant changes to the Local Project Review Act and the way that local governments process permits. There were then more amendments made to it this year. There are necessary updates to the city's permit procedures to reflect those requirements from that legislation. We're also taking the opportunity to make other improvements that will consolidate, reorganize, streamline, and clarify procedural regulations. This includes correcting some internal inconsistencies and ensuring that the code matches the city's policy. There are 6 code chapters involved in this project between Titles 18 and 19 of the Municipal Code, with 2 chapters proposed for repeal. The Planning Commission discussed the overall package of amendments on May 11th, and then the regulatory portion only of this project, which is Chapter 1810, on June 8th. Chapter 1810 is the one that is being proposed for action tonight. The City Council was briefed on June 11th and reviewed the draft ordinances. The Planning Commission then held a public hearing on the amendments to Chapter 1810 on June 22nd and voted to recommend approval of the regulations as presented. So just going through the full package, first is Chapter 1805. This contains a majority of the procedures related to the permit process. The proposal will put all of the permit procedures into this chapter for simplicity and transparency. The proposal is to keep the existing regulations that we currently have in this chapter and integrate some new sections that will add some additional legal protections for the city. We're also incorporating sections that are currently located in chapters 1825 and 1910 that are related to the permit process, which means that those 2 chapters can be repealed. And there are some sections located at the end of this chapter currently that are related to the comprehensive plan process and rezones that can be moved to the comprehensive plan chapter, which is Chapter 1810. And there's also a section related to annexations that is not really it's not really about the permit procedures, so that is proposed to be relocated to the general provisions chapter, which is 19120. We also want to make it clear that this chapter applies to all titles related to zoning and development, which is not currently the case. And by doing that, we will remove any chance of contradiction or confusion, and you can look in one location for everything. So due to the degree of revisions necessary to accommodate all of this, repeal and replace is proposed. So next is Chapter 1810. This chapter has the recommendation from the Planning Commission and is under a separate ordinance, and this is the one that we are proposing to move forward with for a vote this evening. This is the comprehensive plan chapter. It largely covers, the official adoption of the comprehensive plan. It should also address the comprehensive plan amendment process. So we're adding that in from Chapter 1805. We're also fleshing that out and improving that section on annual docketing for transparency and predictability, and adding in formal adoption of the roadway classification map, which is currently missing. The Planning Commission also is proposing to simplify the language about sub-area plans and is codifying a policy on early and continuous public participation. We're also adding a new section to address development agreements, which is an important tool that has been used before in the city without formal regulation behind it, where the city can be assured that project aspects will remain as proposed for the life of the project, and can also negotiate for specific details and additional public benefit and mitigation. The draft code section in here is fairly basic. It just creates a regulatory framework for it. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this chapter on June 22nd and voted unanimously to recommend approval. And we have Chapter 1825. This one is proposed for repeal. This contains procedures for land use notice postings. Not many people would know to look here for this information. It should be in 1805, which with the rest of the development application procedures. By moving those provisions into 1805, we eliminate the opportunity to miss procedural steps. So putting it back in there means that this chapter is unnecessary and can be repealed. And then we have Chapter 1910, which is also proposed for repeal. This one is duplicative of 1805, but also somewhat contradictory in some places, so it's a good idea to just eliminate that issue altogether. We're proposing to pull relevant portions out of this chapter and put them into 1805 and then just repeal this one. And then we have Chapter 19110. This one is called zoning permits, and then it addresses more than just zoning permits. So again, it's not intuitive for someone to look here for that information. Means that those regulations have a higher chance of getting missed. We're pulling out those disparate sections that don't belong in here, and then we're updating the rest of it for relevance. Those disparate sections are going into the general provisions chapter for the time being as kind of a temporary holding place. And then the site development plan section is proposed for an update. These amendments are going to streamline the permitting process for site development plans, adding a clear applicability section and to make it much easier to understand. And then the last chapter is 19120, that's general provisions. This, we have been calling it at the staff level, the junk drawer chapter. It contains a lot of different unrelated items. It's really outdated and it needs a very deep dive update at some point. Staff is working on that right now, but for now, we're just proposing a light touch just to help with administration. So we're updating agency names that have changed since 1995. We're updating the home occupation section to make it match our policy and adding those sections in from elsewhere that didn't belong in those other chapters. We're also adding the annexation regulations as recommended by the Planning Commission. So again, the Planning Commission reviewed the entire amendment package on May 11th and then discussed Chapter 1810 in greater detail on June 8th. They held a public hearing on the 22nd and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the amendments and voted to adopt findings of fact and conclusions to support their recommendation. So again, there are 2 recommendations for council motions listed in your agenda packet on page 92. We are only moving forward with one of those this evening, and that is the second recommendation for the ordinance on page 186. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Any comments, questions, or feedback before we take action? Seeing none, we'll just end with mine. I think we do this before, which is just to say thank you. Actually, all 3 of the code amendments that we just walked through very non-celebratorily, if you will, if that's a word. I feel like there should be a button here that I push where this confetti drops down, because I know this is huge work. The business community, our developers, all of them appreciate this because you're absolutely correct to keep using that word. Nothing is intuitive about these codes, where they're placed, the language, and then you've adjusted it with new stuff coming from the state. So just having to go through all of that as you're welcome to the city and you're not running away, thank you very much. We appreciate all of the work that you're doing, even if it seems unceremonial. I think that's the word I probably should have used. That said, very ceremoniously, do we have a motion? I see Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to clarify, it is the Chapter 18.10 that we're not.
Sorry, that is the one that we are. The one that has
That's the one we are
list.
doing because
It's the shorter one.
in the staff report, it says consent agenda. So it's the other one is the consent agenda.
Yeah, sorry, swapped.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve the code amendments to amend Mountlake Terrace Municipal Code Chapter 18.10 for administration procedures and development agreements.
Period. Excellent. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? We have a second from Councilmember Matsumoto Wright. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll take it to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And abstaining, we have a 6-0. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
And so just to clarify.
Clarification?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so to clarify, the other chapters that we discussed here tonight, which would be replacing Chapter 1805, repealing and replacing Chapter 1805, repealing Chapters 1825 and 1910, and amending Chapters 19110 and 19120 for administration procedures will be on the consent agenda as amended.
That's correct, yes, that's the
Okay.
proposal.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for that clarification. Oh. Councilmember Sonmore.
Is this, I just wanted to, we were going to talk a little bit about the Department of Commerce change. Is that what you're talking about? Is that the next one?
Yeah, if you have a question about that, I'm happy to answer.
I was just following up on what the city manager said earlier on. I just took a note that we'd be talking about.
Yeah, it was, it's a delay because there is a discrepancy in dates in the language of the ordinance tonight. It doesn't affect really much anything. It's just a certain number of days that are required that Commerce would like to see versus what we had written down and what other cities use. So we're going back and forth between that. Putting this on the consent agenda wouldn't change any of the language that you heard about tonight. It's just making sure we get it right so we don't have to go back and do it again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to clarify again, that's why we couldn't take action on that tonight, and what will be, and by making those changes, be brought back to put on the consent agenda in 2 weeks so that we can move forward at that time with the correct numbers, dates.
That's correct.
Number of days. Great.
And I will just add for the public listening, we can always take things off the consent calendar if we see something that we've read and don't appreciate it. So that said, it will be on the consent calendar in 2 weeks unless one of us decides we need to take it off. But again, now is a good time to ask any of those questions that would make you want to take it off, because again, no real substantive changes will be made. All right, we will now move to technically 13, review and vote on appointment of the Planning Commission Council Liaison. And I suspect that's from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Last month, on the 11th, council reviewed and made recommended changes to Title II. That's our board and commissions chapter. And on the 18th, council adopted the updated version of that code. The newly adopted language says that each advisory body shall include at least one council member as a liaison, and the Planning Commission does not have a council liaison. Council expressed a desire to have that liaison appointed to the Planning Commission. And in that role, council members will act as the two-way communication channel between the Planning Commission and the City Council. And the Planning Commission meets on the second and fourth Monday of every month at 6 p.m. And with that, I would invite a nomination for liaison to our Planning Commission.
All right, folks, I watched the recording. That was a wonderful discussion. So let's have that nomination. Do we have any nominations? Councilmember Page.
I will self-nominate myself.
All right, we have Councilmember Page nominating himself. I don't know that we have to second that.
May I?
I was going to say, we may have a second.
Laughing.
No, nothing at all. We're appreciating your willingness to step up. So do we have any other nominations? Then we will close nominations. You want to give a speech? I'm kidding. That said, we have a genuine offer from Councilmember Page to join our Planning Commission as a liaison. And so any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to, please, Mayor Pro Tem.
I would be proud to support your nomination as liaison to the Planning Commission. As a planning commissioner for 14 years, I know how much work it is. And part of the reason that I'm not interested in it is because I can't keep my mouth shut. And as you all know, especially on planning community development issues, and there would not be a good role for me just because this is such an important role. But more importantly, this is a great learning experience. This is a great opportunity to really learn about really important issues about how this community is going to grow and develop. And so I'm excited to have you serve as our liaison on the Planning Commission, and happy to support your nomination.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I guess I will add this. You know, when we were going through our interview process, one of the things that I noted, you know, to some of the applicants was that, you know, this is the one commission or board that we don't see, you know, from here when we have our meetings. And typically the information we're getting are from the staff, but from on behalf of what they've done. And I just felt like it's really important that they have a voice at the table, you know, so people will see the amount of work that they do. They meet twice a month, which makes it, you know, very, very, very important, and, you know, work. And they do a lot of work. And to that point of learning, I'm new in this game, and there's a lot of stuff that we talk about, and it's a constant circle of, you know, trying to figure out why and the where and the how come. So in all honesty, to our public, you know, why I'm doing this is for the learning purposes of trying to figure out what's going on and why we do what we do and why we agree so easily with what they say to us, you know, because a lot of it is stuff that people don't understand. So that's the why.
All right, and with that wonderful conversation in my ears, I will back up and say, actually, let's model what we do in January and presume this will be one of the options on the January, which means we need an alternate, and I will nominate myself as the alternate. I will presume there's no need to go through the rigmarole of anybody want to compete, and we'll just say we're now going to vote unless somebody wants the alternate. Did I miss a step? I didn't think so. So that said, I will go with nominating as the official liaison, Councilmember Page, and as the alternate, Mayor Woodard would be the vote. Any discussion or clarification required on that? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, okay, and then seconded. So moved and seconded. All right, so then let's just take it to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed, none abstaining. We now have a liaison and an alternate to the Planning Commission. And congratulations on that. That genuinely was one of the more fascinating parts of watching the video. I encourage everyone, including us, if we don't do that as a habit, to make sure you watch what we've done in the past. See how we represented ourselves. See the conversations we had. But that one was particularly interesting because it tied in this whole concept of why would we want change. So that's just my way to acknowledge our attorney, Attorney Evans, adding that, hey, you know, the law changed, which you would think, how do we not know that? And yet it was that simple conversation that then has led to this new capacity. I do want to recognize that that is what we have just done. We've granted ourselves capacity into a group that's already been providing capacity to us. So we're actually enhancing that capacity by having this new liaisonship, which again, if we didn't have that full-on discussion back a couple Thursdays ago, might not have led to this. We would have probably got here maybe another year from now. So just kind of putting that out there. That's this interesting discussion about why change. That stated, we will now roll into City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Couple of things to report. Tomorrow night is our 3rd of July event. Going to be a lot of fun. So I hope everybody can join us there. Also wanted to highlight again the parade that's coming up on July 17th. I know that the Tour de Terrace event was a loss for everybody in the family that ran that. Didn't want to continue, and understandable. It was a lot of effort. But our Chamber of Commerce has picked up the mantle and is going to provide that parade on the 17th, and that's also going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that really proud of is we are working to make things more streamlined, more transparent, easier to navigate throughout city codes. And tomorrow morning we're going to launch a video on a how-to permitting process. It's going to be, hopefully, it was 8 minutes today. Hopefully we'll get it down to about 6.5, so people will actually watch it. But it's a really good video and a real good primer for people to walk through our permitting process and kind of see how everything works, and hopefully answer a lot of questions. So that's something we're happy about. Lastly, wanted to mention that our Terrace Summer Nights program kicks off next week, next Thursday, and we have music here at the Civic Campus, but we also have the North Shore Farmers Market pop-up event from 3:30 to 7:30, and hoping everybody can come out and enjoy that. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Any questions, comments, or feedback for the city manager? Seeing none, thank you, sir. We will roll into council liaison reports, and I'm going to start with Councilmember Matsumoto Wright, and then we'll move over to Councilmember Doyle, and we'll go back and forth.
Thank you.
Beg your pardon, the Honorable Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
So for my liaison report, I'm going to start with at June 24th to the 26th, the AWC conference in Spokane, which actually was a very, very interesting conference, and brought home a lot of goodies for the staff, and learned a lot about housing and how we can streamline some of that. And for the first time, I didn't have to carry the flag, because William carried it, did a good job. Then, and at the conference, from Snohomish County, Marysville Mayor John Naring is a new AWC president, and Dan Rankin, mayor of Darrington, is now on the board. So we have some really good representation there from Snohomish County. On the 27th, I attended a fundraiser for the Linwood Neighborhood Center for the finishing the building fund, and Mountlake Terrace was recognized for what we already gave to them, and all the cities were, and it was just a fantastic event. And the building is now finished. It's just buzzing, and they're going to start the cafe pretty soon. Okay, then let's see. On the 29th, well, that's when I brought all the goodies to the staff. And then earlier today, I attended the Community Transit Board meeting. And I don't know if you know this, but Edmonds City Council person, Susan Payne, broke her arm. No, she tripped over her cat. But I just wanted to just mention that she'll be out of commission, I think, for a little while. But she was at the meeting via Zoom. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you kindly. We'll go with the Honorable Councilmember Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine is very short. 18th, I attended the council meeting, and then on the 19th, I had my one-on-one with City Manager Jeff Knighton.
Thank you kindly. The Honorable Councilmember Sonmore.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to recognize Paul Roberts, who passed away very recently. He used to be, you were just going off of what you just said, the president of AWC, and I had the honor to work with him many years ago, and he was also an Everett City Council member and worked with Snohomish for a long time. So Paul will be dearly missed. And then going to a happy note too, is we have a young lady in our community who's 14 years old, and her name is Race Lee McCoy, and she's going to be traveling to Tennessee to Loretta Lynn's ranch, and she's going to be competing in an amateur motocross championship. And I had the honor of going to high school with both of her grandparents, Karen and then Steve Presbolinski, and her grandfather passed away a number of years ago, but was a wonderful human being, and I'm sure they're honoring him with this as well, but I just wanted to point that out and honor her being a 14-year-old. And for boards and commissions, left one and RPAC will both be held next week. And then I forgot to ask the city manager if there was any news on an e-bike accident that has happened recently.
There was a accident at 44th and 220th, I believe, where someone on an e-bike rear-ended a vehicle, and the person on the e-bike was injured. But I did want to clarify something that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the new e-bike legislation that went into effect in June allows our officers to more effectively address some of those issues. The break point between when something's an e-bike versus a motorcycle and requires a helmet and a motorcycle endorsement and everything else is 20 miles an hour. If the vehicle can achieve a 20-mile-an-hour speed with motor power, then that's when it becomes effectively a motorcycle or a scooter. Below that, it does not, and I don't believe there's any age limits or other requirements.
They won't be able, I know years ago they discussed having them have license plates, but that wasn't part of the...
Not the e-bikes, but the anything above 20 miles an hour, I believe, has to be registered.
All right, we'll move to the Honorable Councilmember Page.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 19th, I attended several Juneteenth events, some with yourself, in Linwood, Edmonds, as well as Shoreline. And then on the 23rd, with our city manager and Councilmember Masamoto Wright, I attended the AWC convention. And all I want to say about that is, you know, last year, the importance of going, because I almost didn't go. But, you know, last year was my first year right after getting appointed. And I was telling everybody this year, you know, I went to everything and I don't think I learned anything because I was so overwhelmed with all the information. And this year I went, and the sessions that I picked, you know, were very strategic, and most of them were budgeting because I wanted to, you know, our residents expect us, and I heard that when I was campaigning and doorbelling, our residents expect us to know what we're talking about and understand the issues that are in front of them. So the sessions that I took were all relevant to the things that we're doing right now and what we're going to be doing in the next year or so. So it was very, very, I'm glad I went, you know, was able to reaffirm some old relationships and make some new ones. And then on the 29th, I completed all 26 visits to our businesses here in the city participating in the MLT Passport program. And I need to give some kudos to one of our employees, Jeffrey Rivers, who is a public works engineer, who actually completed it before me. I thought I was number one, and when I went to turn it in at Double D, it was Justin said, oh man, you are like so far behind on the 8 ball here because a city employee's already turned his in. And so, but I mean, that's just, you know, I commend your city, you know, our city employee wanting to get out there and meet all those businesses. And I encourage every one of you and everyone out there, if you haven't done it, it was wonderful. I got a chance to meet employees, I got owners. I had to do a yoga. I had to do, you know, over at Untamed, I had to do a fitness class, and I tried to get a stunt double for those, and no one stepped up, so I had to do it. And it wasn't that bad. So I encourage you to just go out there and meet those our wonderful business partners because they're dying to meet you, and they was excited when people come in to do their passport program. On the 30th, I attended the Chamber networking event at Evergreen Bottle, where I believe there was over 50 people there. It was a wonderful event. We had a lot of fun. And it was great. I'm glad that they do that there. And again, there were more new businesses that came in that day. And so it was a wonderful opportunity.
Outstanding. The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, so I'm glad that you guys went to the AWC. This is the first year I haven't gone to AWC conference in a very long time. And the primary reason that I didn't go is because not because I don't pick up a lot. I mean, every time I go, they have some great sessions, and I highly encourage all of us to when and if you have the opportunity to go to those events. There's a lot of great content, a lot of great information that's passed along, as well as great meeting some great colleagues from around the state. But the reason I didn't go is because every year I have the same set of meetings during the same week that I end up finding myself just sitting in my hotel room doing Zoom meetings instead of being able to attend the conference, and it became anyway. So the Zoom meetings that I end up having, and actually had one in person also this time, was on the 24th, had the Snohomish County, met with the Snohomish County Tomorrow leadership for the exploratory committee to delve into economic development, and met with Ray Stephenson from Economic Alliance and Grace Yu from Snohomish County Economic Development, and myself and Stephanie Vignall and Ann Larson talked about the Economic Development Committee and who's going to make up the Snohomish County Tomorrow Economic Development Committee that we're going to bring back to the exploratory committee for consideration in August. Anyway, so we came to a conclusion of who we're going to recommend, kind of the format of the committee representatives that will serve on that Economic Development Committee that we want for consideration. Then that afternoon had the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee meeting, which I chaired, which was, we adopted the exploratory committee recommendations for the Housing Committee participants at the Snohomish County Tomorrow. And then we also heard from the commanding officer, Captain Stacy Withier of the Naval Station Everett, and all the different programs and plans that community programs and how they're involved in serving not only our country, but our community as well. And then also had a presentation on the Snohomish County budget. So just like us and every other local government, Snohomish County is facing some significant budget challenges and are trying to figure out how they're going to fund county government and trying to make some tough decisions at that level as well. So we had a great presentation to help give us council members throughout the county an understanding of the county budget. Then we heard from Eric Ashley Vinke, our favorite government and community relations coordinator for the north end of Sound Transit, and Miranda Redinger, who was the development manager, about the Everett Link and the progress that we're making on getting Sound Transit now the next stage from Linwood up to Everett, as well as some of the other routes that they're expanding throughout the region. But obviously we're focusing on the Everett Link and the progress that we're making. They're just starting. So the process that we went through 15, 20 years ago when we first started planning on our station here in Mountlake Terrace, they're just starting that process for the stations going up from Linwood up to Everett. If you have interest and input on where some of the locations of some of those stations, now's the time to provide that. So anybody that's interested in weighing in on where that station, for instance, Ash Way, is going to be, now's the time to be able to go in. There's survey links. There's and Eric is always happy to help direct you to ways to weigh in on the Everett Link stations. Then also of note, and I did forward it on to our staff, there's a TOD toolkit. So based on the experience that they've had in developing stations throughout the region up to us, and based on our experience and the experience others have had in creating transit-oriented development, they've created a model code that they're now recommending or suggesting other jurisdictions consider in their process when they're locating their station to make sure they're making best and highest use of the development around those stations. But I did forward that on to our staff to make sure that I think we've done it right, and we're a great example of doing transit-oriented development, but there might be some good hints in there for us to take a look at. So wanted to pass that along. Then there's a lot more interesting information there that I'm going to let go at this point, because the other thing is the executive board, Puget Sound, the next morning I had on the 25th, the Puget Sound Regional Council Operations Committee, followed by the Puget Sound Regional Council Executive Board meeting. Importantly, at the executive board meeting, there took action on redesignation of the manufacturing and industrial centers and certification of the sub-area plans, and reviewed the regional open space conservation plan, and also we're rolling out a housing development data tool, which I forwarded also on to our folks, and I highly encourage anybody that's interested. If you want to know about housing data and trends and population and who's living where, and anything from age frame to whatever information you're interested in about our residents is going to be in this tool. And we're rolling it out. Puget Sound Regional Council is rolling it out on July 22nd. And so I hope that some of our team can be there, zoom in on that, I believe it's online, be able to zoom in on that and be able to figure out how we can best use that tool. But if others are interested in that, let me know. I'd be happy to share the information about that program, the tool, and how to best use it. And it's called Build Here Housing Tool. And that, I believe, concludes my report for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then we'll wrap it up with me. Good news and not so good news. The good news is I'll regulate this. And not so good news, I go all the way back to May. May 25th, I had the opportunity to attend Linwood's Memorial Day service, and it was just amazing. So I just want to always put that out there. Thank you for your service and ultimate sacrifice. I'll try to keep the commentary down for the rest of this time. On the 26th, we had a fiscal town hall at Lake Ballinger Center. Thank you for the residents for showing up there. On the 27th, we had the Snohomish County Charter Review in this very space. I want to say thank you to the clerk, although she's on vacation. They went way longer than they anticipated, and our clerk stayed with them the entire time. On the 28th, I had the Finance Committee with Mayor Pro Tem and our leadership. On the 30th, that Saturday, Latino Education Training Institute graduated another Latino Leadership Initiative group, which was just awesome. That was their 14th time, which is my way of foreshadowing for this council. The next one will be their quinceañera, and so if you've never been to one, they said this will be the one you want to come to, because it's definitely going to be that theme, because it will be their quinceañera. Now moving forward, on the 2nd, and now we're now into June, I did attend the Snohomish County update. That was at the Boeing flight, Future of Flight, and you just heard some of that news about how we're doing as a county. Things are great, but we're heading into some challenging times. And then on Wednesday, I did and it says PSKC Tour, which is the Puget Sound Kidney Center, which is over by the high school, which I will just pause here to say, if you haven't had a chance to visit, please consider. And the main thing that you're going to watch is it's going to be really interesting when we're talking water rates, because their entire facility revolves around that life force of water. So I'm just going to leave it there and just say thank you for that tour and opening up my eyes and giving me another dimension to be thinking about when we start talking about how much it costs to just have drinkable water. I go into a number of Juneteenth events from there, and so just know that on the 9th, I had the opportunity to join Edmonds and accept their proclamation. Thank you for that. On the 11th, I had the opportunity to come here. We had kids from Terrace Park. I believe they were 2nd and 3rd graders who came and learned about our city. They walked down here, walkable city, so thank you to their chaperones and families for making that happen. And then the city staff for welcoming them. It was a full day of events. I left there super energized and went over to Edmonds College and delivered the keynote speech over there for their Juneteenth. That is a YouTube video. I bring that up to say that I actually talked about the event that we did with the Pride. Notice I didn't say I was at Pride. I had some personally upending going on, so I wasn't able to make any of our Pride events, and so I carried what we did with Pride specifically out here in this plaza into my theme for the Juneteenth event. So that was my way of trying to honor both. On the 15th, I had my one-on-one with the city manager. Just want to remind people, love to hear when you've had your meetings with your city manager. On the 16th, I made it down to, once again, the Ballinger Center for the Mixed Use Visioning. That was a small group of folks. It was a wonderful conversation, which is just my way to acknowledge that my understanding is on the 17th. That was not necessarily the case, but thank you to those residents as well for coming down and making sure that we heard you. And we did hear you, and I can only apologize that I wasn't in the room to hear it personally because I was at the Snohomish County Cities Collaboration meeting, and then also I went out to Kenmore to their Juneteenth event. And I want to acknowledge all of the South County cities and North King County cities who have given a Juneteenth recognition or ceremony at some point. On the 18th, I was not able to join you all, so thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for stepping in. I was at the graduation, as I mentioned earlier, which brought to us Tyler. And so then on the 19th, you just heard I was at Linwood, Edmonds, and Shoreline's Juneteenth event. I had the opportunity to speak at the mic for Shoreline. They wanted me to speak in Linwood, but I had to get it moving, so I wasn't able to do it there, but thank you for that invitation as well. The 22nd, I had a Snohomish County Mayor's meeting, which is all of the Snohomish County Mayor's meeting, and it was a lot of conversations about how are we going to pay for these changes with the law enforcement. So basically everything that we're talking about. So every city is trying to figure out how they're going to pay for these increase in fees, so it was just good to be in the room and hear that there may be some conversations to be had amongst each other about how to make this leap. And rounding this out, I think today's Thursday, so just 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to join the Urban Native Education Alliance. They had a group of students, and they actually were here earlier for House Resolution 4706, which acknowledges the terrible harm, of course, that was done with the indigenous boarding schools, Indian boarding schools, that history and that legacy that is being acknowledged now at the state level. This was a resolution, so a first step in that, but their students were the ones who led that, and so this was their formal recognition. They gave me an opportunity to speak, which I thought was weird. Why are you giving me an opportunity to speak? I appreciate it, an open mic right now, but that was because we were prominently featured. So as we do these proclamations, if you don't think that they matter, and I know that we know they matter, know that they really matter. And that's just my way of saying, so I was in this room in Mountlake Terrace. It was just being celebrated left and right about the fact that we have done that proclamation for Orange Shirt Day. That has not gone unnoticed, and there are a lot of important people in that room. The Speaker Pro Tem, Chris Stearns, was one of the folks in that room, so it's good for them to hear how we're doing. Representative Santos was in there. I mean, it was a lot of amazing people who get to hear Mountlake Terrace is on the right side of justice. So I want to thank you all. You are absolutely in the photos that were rotating in there as well. So thank you for that. Interesting enough, I wasn't in any of those photos because somehow I missed both days, which is to say I apologize to them for that, and that's just how the world spins sometimes. I don't miss very many council meetings, but apparently I was creating a rift there. And then lastly, just yesterday, I did have the luncheon with the South Snohomish County mayors. There were 5 mayors, myself included, who showed up for that. And really, it's just a chance to talk to each other and hear the issues that are happening in our city, and quite frankly, laugh sometimes inappropriately. So that said, that is the end of my report, and we will now move to any new business. Any new business? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to follow up on both the commenters today during public comment. They're still starting with Mr. Wolf. And your comments. I appreciate you raising the challenge that you're facing. And I just, based on history of this council has, and our planning commission has looked at this for years and struggled with much of the same issues that you're raising. And I'd be interested in kind of double checking where we're coming from, and if there's interest in following up on addressing this issue as far as the remodeling and, the thresholds and whatnot, and if there's an opportunity to really make improvements to our community by changing the thresholds, I guess. So I guess I'd be interested in seeing if there's, if you can kind of provide some basic background on the issue to share with the council, because some of the council members haven't gone through those discussions in the past and struggled with how to go about it. And we've looked at that issue in the past and struggled, but have landed where we have based on maybe not having better options. But I think you raised a few. Mr. Wolf raised a few, and I think there are some surrounding jurisdictions to take a look at as to potential opportunities to change our code there. So I'd just be interested in, I'm interested in following up and taking a look and seeing, mind you, I know you're anxious to get started on your project. I'm glad you're still here, by the way. Thank you for sticking through the whole meeting with us. But anyway, I know you're anxious to get started on your project, but government takes a while to work. So sorry about that. It may take a very slow minute to get there, but I am interested in at least looking at it and finding out if the council's interested in taking a look at that, and then at least having a discussion about potential changes to the thresholds for remodeling. Then I also wanted to follow up on Mr. Hildebrand's comments. Happy America 250. I appreciate your comments, and I think they're very apropos, obviously, for the timing with July 4th. Whether we everybody has their own opinions about whether we agree with or disagree with what's going on at the federal level, at the state level. But that's the beauty of America, the opportunity to be able to have our own individual voices, to be able to agree or disagree or fight for and fight against different things. We've come a long way in 250 years, and it was the great American experiment that is always challenging us to do better and be better. And we've grown, and we've made progress, and we've become a better country because of it. That's not to say there isn't a lot more room to grow. There is a lot more opportunity to become even better than we are. But I think it's important to recognize where we've come from, how far we've come, the progress we're making, and this is an opportunity in 2 days and for, honestly, all year to celebrate that. 250 years of a great American experiment, that we've made some progress, but we still have a lot of great progress to make. And let's celebrate that wildly in the coming days. And on that note, I don't know how many of you have been participating in the World Cup activities, but it is really exciting to see what's going on and how that's brought the world together. And but also having people come from around the world come visit our country and talk about and remind us of many of the great things that we have here that we sometimes too often forget about. And so it's been really exciting to hear hear about all the different people that are coming to visit and how great an experience they're having in our country. And particularly in Seattle, and how well Seattle is shining in all of this as well. So it is really encouraging to celebrate America, but also celebrate the world and all of us coming together to be a better place. So with that concludes my comments and new business. Thank you.
That was outstanding. Yeah, that was outstanding. I won't even bother commenting. So any other new business? Nope. So Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
Sorry. Hamilton News had an article on microtransit in South County, and I see that Nick is gone, but he did a great job of interviewing Edmonds, Mountlake, Terrace, and Linwood, and all three of us are on the CT board, and we're all working on getting microtransit into our cities, because I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've noticed it. If I want to take light rail, I'd have to walk half a mile to park half a mile away, and with microtransit, at least they'll pick me up at my door, take me to the transit station, and transfer onto the light rail all on one Orca card. So we're really working on it. It's not going to get here in time for the rest of the World Cup, which is only a few days, but that's our future. The other is the conservation futures. I'm hoping that we're looking at properties in Melody Hill, because this might be one of the few times we're going to, one of the last times we're going to be having money in conservation futures for parks. And we don't have a park that is a nice park over in Melody Hill, and I've been wanting to have one for a long, long time. So if we can find some place where we can purchase with conservation futures money, that'd be great. The electric scooter and the electric bike. I'm glad that came up because I don't know how many times in the last few weeks I have seen kids. I mean, one looked like it was 8 years old, going down the middle of the road on an electric scooter, fast. And and electric bikes, they're easy to see because they're not bicycling. Their legs are stationary as they're going right past you. I'm really worried about a lot of that. And they have a skateboard. There's a scooter and there's a skateboard and they're not going slowly on that skateboard either, in the middle of the road. So I just want to bring it up because I know other cities in the mayor's meetings in last year were talking about it, wondering what to do. And I actually stopped my car because I looked and there was nobody else on the road. I just stopped the car and just stared at those kids. They couldn't care less who I was, or they just did their own thing. So I'm really just wondering where again, where are the parents? Where are they, are they worried about their kids? Do they know where their kids are? I know it's a different time now, but I would think that I would want to know where my kids are, and if they have an electric scooter or whatever, that they would be using it in a way that's safe, because I'm a little worried about safety. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. I have a lot about what you just said, but again, in the spirit, I won't add to it. I second. Well said. Thank you. So any other new business? All right. I do want to double back, though, to Mr. Wolf and just say yes and. Yes, government is moving slow, but I think council might be open to it. Recognize that we can't gift public goods. It would be interesting to see if there is some type of, I'm going to call it an exception today, but some way to massage that to get them moving forward. Variance, I like that better, some type of variance as we work through this, because you are on a timeline, every day matters, and you bring up a situation I think will be more common in this city than not, just trying to get more than over 1,000 square feet in your home. That's a lot harder than it sounds to just remodel inside. Two last ones on new business on my side. One, just want to double back to our resident who is turning 100. Thank you to the city. When I asked for some type of recognition, they didn't stop there. They did a little bit of research, which is just to say, if you look at the census, it is projected that we will have more centurions than we have ever had very soon here in the next kind of 10 to 20 years, meaning that this will happen more frequently. I pause that to say that I don't think this is the first time this specific council, maybe not always on my right here, but some configuration here, has celebrated our centurions. So that is a way to say the city has once again said, hey, not only is this potentially going to be something that's more common, but maybe we can create something, which I believe we wanted to. And so here we are again with that moment in time, which is just my way of saying, would this council be interested in us finding a formal way to gather who is turning 100 so that we acknowledge this amazing milestone of years young. With that, I see some head nods and some agreement, so not sure what we would do, but just know that we are interested in that. I thought there was some wonderful suggestions in the email back and forth to me, but if we can make that public to the group, if we haven't already, that'd be great. And then the last one, I will just say, we're blessed to have hard conversations up here and still respect each other. And I will just say that I watched the video last session, and I'm not sure if we got there. I hope that we did, but I watched that and I said, if I wasn't on this council and knew the people talking, I'd be concerned as a resident that somehow I caused something, which is just to say everybody up here loves this city. We love the volunteers who equally love, if not more, this city. But we are at a point of inflection where, we're trying to make space and also just honor people who want to be involved, and yet not disrespect those folks who have been involved all along, if you will, and in lots of different ways. And we do need to find a better bedside manner, is what I'm going to reframe this as, of figuring out how we do something more than just what we witnessed here. I still have my thank yous from the library board and the RPAC, so they are meaningful, but I think there might be a separation, and I think we had a wonderful example today. We had a commissioner who had made it to a couple of meetings, and we wanted to celebrate them, that they were willing to put that time in, and it just played out the way it did for them. No judgment. Thank you for that time you gave us. But we also had folks who had decades' time of serving. which is my way of saying let's focus more on that, the decades as opposed to the haven't been here that long. So the theory is, and again, I haven't fleshed this out, but I did raise this before, and I think this is the time to do it. I'd like for us to consider an emeritus status for our commissions. And so I'm going to use a very specific example, Bonnie Mercer. Bonnie has done so much in so many ways that we couldn't spend a meeting here without being well into the midnight hour of acknowledging all the things that she, her family, historically have done. I don't think anybody intended for this not to go any particular way, but we probably needed a better way to do that. And I think that she would have been a wonderful example of what it means to be an emeritus person. And I will pull back and say, if you're not familiar with that, higher ed uses it all the time. And effectively what it means is that you have all of your rights except voting. So you can attend, you can contribute, it's expected that you will. You have an office, that's not a part of here, but no, all of that is still in play. And it's, again, that word in there is emeritus as opposed to ex officio. It starts off with X. Nobody likes an X, even if it's, you know, done with a nice soundtrack behind it. It's still an X, as opposed to emeritus status. So we do not have to do that tonight, but I just want us to think about that, especially since we will be doing this again very soon. And who's to say who will be the next set of people whose turn it is in terms of terms ending and who's interested. In terms of when I listened to that meeting, for my counsel, I felt for you all. I wasn't here. In fact, I was having a great time where I was, and you all were having a hard conversation, and I apologize for not being here for that. But no, I agreed with a lot that was being here. And again, I will double back to the most interesting thing were two things for me out of that meeting. One, we now have a liaison and an alternate to the Planning Commission. Literally opened up capacity for this council that others had been doing that we wouldn't have, and it's because we have a new lawyer. That's not to say our former lawyer wouldn't have done that, but nonetheless, having a new lawyer, didn't have the history, was able to say, well, he probably told you that because you were in that quasi-judicial mode that we all actively spent to get out of. So I don't know how we didn't make that connection, but here we find ourselves. Thank you again for the new voices to the room. And I expect that will happen across the commissions. But again, you know, there's got to be a way in which we still honor everyone and still know that we're serving the city well by not losing that institutional memory until that institutional memory is really ready to be done with that institutional memory. So that is my recommendation. We don't have to do anything now, but I'd like to put that closer maybe in November to revisit when we start looking at liaisonships and probably another set of board and commissioners or whatever that timeline is. So with that, any other new business need to be done? Seeing none, I'm sure you're excited for this part. We are officially adjourned.